We're going to start off today's events with a speaker by the name of Mr. Matt DiBara. He is a celebrated CEO and a wonderful speaker. He is a proud owner of DiBara Masonry, located in California. About 10 years ago, he relocated the company, his family company, which was founded in the 1900s, early 1900s actually, to California, and experienced rapid growth, which is great if you can staff it. He had struggles trying to find reliable, long-term employees. It is an issue that is rampant in our industry and the globe over. I'd like to introduce Mr. Matt DiBara. He's going to speak on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, hello.
It's a long walk.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Great to be here. Appreciate all of you after a long night out, early morning session, so thank you for that. You're here today at the 2024 SAIA Annual Convention and Expo, and what an amazing time to be a part of this industry. You know, so much has changed in the industry. Whoops, what's going on here? A lot's changed, whoops. So much has changed back from when this meant scaffolding and access, right? So the old days. Any OSHA here? Hope not. So where we are today. This is the Washington Monument. This is the project I saw go up in 2013. The scaffolding and access industry is literally the backbone and infrastructure of some of the most iconic and impressive projects in the country. But with that innovation comes some complications, right? A little bit of change. And so not all innovation creates ease, specifically when it comes to hiring. 80% of construction firms are having a hard time filling hourly craft positions. 80%. Question I have for you, let's see a show of hands. How many of you are in the 80% and are struggling right now to staff jobs or could benefit from more great hires? Right, so most of you. For those of you who didn't raise your hands, what do we think in the future? Better? Same? Worse? What do we think is going to happen? Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do know this. 40% of the current workforce is expected to retire in the next decade. 40%. That's 4 out of 10 of our senior workers in the next decade retiring. Now, this poses a big challenge for our industry, but it also poses a great opportunity. And the reason for that is because every one of us is facing the same struggle. And if you can figure it out, if you can find a way to consistently and predictably staff and grow your business, there's a huge opportunity. And the reason for that is because we're not just talking about filling those tough to fill, immediate needed positions. We're talking about literally the ability to grow your business, right? We're in an industry not like software where the number of employees grows as our revenue grows. So at the end of the year in December, when you're talking about those revenue targets, for many companies, the single biggest bottleneck to that is the ability to hire. Bill Gates said the best way to make money is to invest in people. Co-founder of Microsoft, approximately 228,000 full-time employees. Now, I put this here because what's interesting, I've studied Bill Gates in the early days, he had this philosophy when the company was just 2 people, right? This importance of investing in people and growing your team. And so what I learned is that is one of the key pillars that made the company big. They didn't get big and then think, oh, you know what? We better start investing in people. It was a core tenet that allowed them to be successful. So if you can do it and grow your business, we're talking about less stress, increased profits, and more growth. So today, we're going to break this down into 5 simple steps for you to be able to predictably and consistently hire and retain talent in this labor market. This is the same stuff that we use, my company, to hire between 100 and 120 people a month for contractors across the US and Canada. So I'm going to be showing you the exact strategies, the exact tactics that you can put in place literally when you walk out of this room. Now I'm going to ask that you keep an open mind. And some of the things that we're going to talk about here today, you may have heard of before. And it might be a slight spin on what you're doing. Some of these things, I can almost guarantee you've never heard of, like how a rubber chicken might help with your culture and retention. So keep an open mind. In addition, at the end, I'm going to have a QR code and a flyer that you can download some of this. So if you want to take notes, great. If we're going quick and you miss something, there'll be a full recap that you can get at the end, as well as a checklist of the activities that we're going to be talking about here today. Step one, start with the candidate perspective. See, far too often when we hire, we think about what we want as a company, and we don't put on our candidate hat and think from the candidate perspective. And the way you can do this is with one simple question to start the entire process, and that is, would you work for you? Would you work for you? If you knew nothing else about your company and you Google your company name, what comes up, right? What do you see on your website? What do you see on your Indeed, your Glassdoor, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? What do you see? What does your profile look like? Who comes up? Who are your competitors, right? Do you know who they are? Most of the time, we know our competitors when it comes to earning customers. We know who we can win against. We know who we can lose against. If so-and-so bids a project, we'll never get it because they're always lowballing. If so-and-so bids it, we're going to get the job every time because we're 20% less, right? We know our competitors when it comes to acquiring customers. But if we take the candidate journey, who are our hiring competitors? So if you go online and you Google from the perspective of the candidate. So I just put in here, simple search, scaffolding installation jobs Denver, right? So you can try this with your local area. Who comes up? What comes up? These are your hiring competitors. And knowing this is very important because you start to get a picture of your hiring market. Think about it from a sports analogy. If you're playing sports, how can you win the game if you don't know who your competitors are? So when you take the candidate journey and you take the hiring search through the perspective of a candidate, you're able to study your competitors and your local hiring market. And the goal of this is to find and leverage the gaps in your local hiring market. It's to understand what your competitors are offering. Far too often we talk to contractors across the country and we'll ask them, is your pay competitive? Are your benefits competitive? What do you offer that's unique to your local competitors from the hiring side? Most of them don't know, and that's okay. But then when they go to hire and they struggle, they're wondering why when they do this exercise, they notice and find out that their local hiring competitors are paying $2 an hour more. They're offering benefits that they're not offering. They have all of these incentives and flashy packages that make the prospective candidates want to obviously click and apply to that job specifically. So what are the gaps that we're talking about? Overtime, incentives, type of work, commute. Think of it like this. What is the elevator pitch for why someone should work at your company? Right? If I walk up to you right now and I say, hey, I'm looking for a job, and you say, I'm hiring. Most of you raise your hands for that. What are 3 quick things you can tell me that I think, wow, I really want to apply to work at this company? What is it? And I think it's important to highlight, a lot of companies think that it's just pay, right? They think, well, I got to offer more, and maybe I can't afford to do that. Now, it's not just that. And one exercise you can do is you can take 2, 3, 4 of your top team members, and you can actually interview them one-on-one. Ideally, they've been with your company 3 to 5 years. If you got somebody that's been there a decade, even better. Sit them down and ask, hey, you've dedicated a decade or 5 years to working at this company. Why is that? What do you love about working here? We've done this exercise with our clients hundreds of times, and you'd be amazed. You'll find things like, well, that one time when my wife was really sick, you helped me out, you gave me a loan when I really needed it, or it might be, hey, I really love that, you celebrate my birthday and I get my birthday off, right? Little things that we often don't think about because we're on the inside of the glass looking out. Now, your employees, they're internal customers. And this one is interesting because we fight so hard and we think about external customers and gaining market share in a certain way, right? We fight hard to earn customers. But what about our employees, our internal customers? Think about an employee that you hire that spends the next year, 3 years, or even 5 years at your company. How hard would you fight to earn that internal customer? That's the upside that we're talking about here. Steve Jobs' favorite quote of mine. The secret of my success is that we've gone to exceptional lengths to hire the very best people in the world. Again, somebody I studied early on. This was an ideology from day one. It was an idea that they had, a core philosophy with the company that helped them grow. Right now they have 161,000 employees, okay? So some of what we're talking about here might seem like a lot of work, but when we think about the upside of what we can benefit from when we make a great hire, think of 1, 2, or 3 great hires in your company right now, who they are, how much stress they relieve, how reliable they are. I can tell you right now, the candidates are out there if you have a consistent, predictable model to attract them. The second step, if you want those dream candidates, so first step is candidate perspective. Would you work for you? Understanding your local hiring market. The second step, if you want dream candidates, is to build your dream hiring assets, right? Dream candidates require dream hiring assets. So what are hiring assets? A career page, career video, recruiting cards, banner for job ads, and more. So think of these like the visual assets that candidates see to engage and interact with your company. Now, what some people do is when they look at their competitors, and a lot of them don't have visual assets, they think that that's what they're competing with. I would ask another question. Because we live in the digital age, I believe we're really competing with Instagram, Netflix, Facebook, Hulu. That's the visual standard that our candidates are used to seeing. So when it comes to building really good hiring assets, a high quality digital asset is going to bring people in. In a moment, I'm going to show you a career video here and give you an idea of the caliber of these assets and what they can do to bring in great candidates. Now, I know some of this might sound complicated, and by this point you might think, well, this is a lot of work, there's visual assets, how do I do this? So I want to make it simple here. Your candidate should be able to sit here, pull out their phone, see your hiring ads, come into an interview, and get hired. That's all we're talking about here, is how do we attract their attention, right? And flush wasted time down the toilet. Because if you're doing great assets, you're going to attract great candidates. Now, here's an example of a career page for one of our clients. Okay, if you notice, they're in the general contracting space. They're showing off projects that they've done. It's catchy. Their logo's there. So a great career page should have a company introduction, what it's like to work here, what are the perks and benefits, what does career growth look like at your business. Now, if you've done the first step and you've studied your local hiring market, you've now got a head start on this exercise because you know what gaps you can leverage in the marketplace. One of the most powerful things you can do in the hiring space is create an awesome career video. Because we live in the digital age, and as much as people love to read job descriptions and when they're searching for jobs, a career video like a movie trailer can tell your company's story quickly and in an engaging way. So I wanted to include an example here of what this might look like. Now, before I play it, what I want to highlight here, what's very important is you want to be authentic to your company. So if you're a big corporation, it's important to be authentic. If you're somebody who is a smaller family business, you want the video quality to emulate that. So I want to put this here before you see that video because I want you thinking about how you could tailor this video for your company and your unique culture.
A sense of self-worth that you can stand back and own the project. Just what you're doing is just a sense of gratitude. It's just a sense of self-worth that you can stand back and own the project you just did and regain some of that history that you're experiencing every day.
We want to be known as the best restoration contractor in the industry, not only in Ohio, but across the nation.
Working in bucket construction restoration has been a great experience for me. Been in this field for the last 16 years of my life. To come to my hometown and be with a company that's homegrown has been a great experience for me myself. They're willing to work with everybody and help somebody grow. It's not just about one person, it's about all of us. Buckeye Construction Restoration, they base everything on a set of core values. And the first core value, the most important core value to me is honesty and trust. It's the value in the honesty and trust. And with the people, when we look to hire a person, we sit down with every person. We just don't hire some other folks. We have that one-on-one interview. And you can tell really, you can really feel if a person is they have that trait of honesty and trust. And we're pretty good at getting the right people and putting the right people in the right seats. So I feel very good about judging that person's character and meeting that person and then watching that person grow and being a part of our trusted team.
I think the community of Buckeye Construction and Restoration is very good. We're all supportive, we're uplifting to each other, we're there for each other. And I think that it's like that because of the hiring process that they have and the time that they take to get to know people, and they really can feel people out and see their love.
So you get the idea, right? We get to know the company. We get a feel for their culture. We get a feel for the types of projects they do. And the goal is that that short video can showcase that. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have a career video right now for your company that showcases who you are, what you do, right, in a simple, easy way that a candidate can engage with? Is there one person? This is a powerful, powerful tool for the local hiring market, because when candidates are sifting through job descriptions and they're going through and they're reading one after the other, right? When you have a video, there's no way to summarize what that video just showed. Imagine if I meet you in the lobby and I'm trying to explain to my company. I can give you 3 highlights. I can say, yeah, we've, in the last 10 years, we've never laid anybody off. We're constantly growing. We have great, we guaranteed overtime. And, one of our clients does, we'd say, in the field, you get a massage once a month, professional massage, right? Little perks, little things. But there's nothing I could say to you that would do what that video just did, right? And so if there's one key thing you take away, it's the power of these digital assets. So past projects, testimonial from team members, and equipment and facilities your company has. The second one's really important, testimonial from team members. Instead of getting on a video and you as the owner or manager or, right, C-suite team talking about your company, you have the team talking about why they're there. And there's a relatability factor to that. Now, one of the other tools is a recruitment card. So going through these digital assets, a recruitment card is very important, because as you're networking, as you meet people, as you're out and about, a simple visual card like a business card, but for hiring, to be able to hand out, is a powerful tool. And that QR code is what directs you to the career page embedded with the career video. So it's all one feeds the other. If you have a great career page and you have a great career video, then you have recruiting cards that are visually appealing with a simple QR code. And we've even had people link the video to that QR code. So imagine you get a card from somebody, yeah, we're hiring, you have a short conversation, you hand them this card, and they scan the QR code, and that video starts playing. Immediately you're connected to the company, the mission, the vision, and the values. Now, what about when you're hiring and it comes to writing a job description? Well, I don't believe you should ever write a job description. It should be a job advertisement. And with any advertisement, the most powerful part of the advertisement is the headline. And we've done extensive testing on this. I want to show you 2 case studies of just how powerful this is. So the headline's the first thing that the candidate sees. So if you're posting on ZipRecruiter or Indeed, right? It's what they see before they click the job advertisement. So I wanted to include a case study. Project manager needed for construction work, 14. So this was a client we had, and before we started working for them, this was what they were running. And in a 2-week period, they had 14 qualified applicants. A qualified applicant is an applicant that applies that based on what they respond with is worth calling, right? We track those. So we came in and did headline testing. And the winning headline that we found was, lead the future of construction, become our next project manager. The only thing we changed was the headline, and we got 33 qualified applicants in the exact same 2-week period. That's more than a 2x response rate on candidates by changing nothing more than the headline of the job advertisement. Here's another example. Case study 2, construction project manager job available. 17 qualified applicants in 2 weeks. We tested a few. The winner, transform vision into reality. Project manager wanted. 52 qualified applicants, changing nothing other than the headline of the job advertisement, right? When we think of visual assets, the headline is one of the most powerful tools when it comes to the hiring process. But knowing what to put in the headline comes from doing the first exercise. Would you work for you and understanding your local hiring market? Because you get a feel for what the prospective candidates want in your local market. You can see the headlines that your competitors are using, and you can come up with better examples. And you can take, some of these concepts are universal, right? Transform vision into reality, project manager wanted, right? More than a 3x increase in qualified applicants. Now, some key points to test. What makes you stand out as an employee? What can you do to help with that in mind, right? What happens when long-term growth is mentioned, or perhaps an opportunity to learn? So as you're thinking through this job advertisement, these are some of the points that we typically test, as well as, does a friendlier tone work better than a more polished tone? Going back to my original point about being authentic, one of the most important things we found is being authentic with who you are as a company. If you're very polished and that's the tone in the way you speak and that's your company culture, amazing. Showcase that on the front end, you'll attract candidates that meet that. If you're a smaller company, family business, growing, right, lean into that a little bit more. Now, step 3, diversify your approach. So let's imagine for a minute, we've done step 1. We've gone through and done the exercise. We've Googled our company name. We've Googled from the perspective of a candidate. And we understand our hiring competitors, and we've leveraged the gaps. Now we've built amazing hiring assets. We have our career video. We have a career page. We have recruiting cards. And our headlines are awesome. Now it's time to diversify the approach to which we come in contact with these prospective candidates. Now, all you have to do is give away Dodger tickets. It's a little known secret. No, here it would be the Colorado Rockies, actually. Dodger tickets wouldn't work. This comes from I found this out about 6 years ago. See, you ever heard the saying, ABC, always be closing, right? I have one, which is always be hiring. And so about 6 years ago, I'm at the doctor's office and I'm getting blood work done. And the male nurse, he's pulling out the little syringe and we're talking and he says, what do you do? I said, well, my family's in construction. I own a masonry and concrete company. And I said, we're looking to hire if you know anybody. He said, yeah, I don't know anybody. And he's putting the little syringe in. And I said, oh, okay, well, and I looked down and he had a keychain right here. And it was a Dodger keychain. And I said, well, if you happen to know anybody looking for work, we're giving away really good Dodger seats. He stopped, turned, looked at me, and said, my nephew actually just got out of college. I think he's looking for a job. And I said, interesting. I said, well, can I grab his number? So I got his number, okay? And I ended up calling him. He still works with us to this day. We hired him, right? And so the key takeaway message, the thing I learned in that moment that is so powerful is incentivize the individual, right? Incentivize the individual. And so in my construction company in the early days, I tried things like a general bonus, right? A general cash bonus or 1 day off. And we got our team to work their networks and bring in prospective candidates, but it was nothing compared to when I took each individual person on the team and I said, what would they like? And then I had my manager sit down with them and say, hey, by the way, we have this really big hiring initiative. If you know anybody, this is what we're gonna do for you. One-on-one, individual. Increase the number of people that we got it was exponential. And you can do this with your current team, right? Deputizing your current team. So think of everyone you have, on an individual basis, what would it take for them to go out and talk to their friends, their network, their neighbors about the job openings you have, right? Past team, maybe people who have worked for you in your company in the past and have moved on, and also your network. So for example, I'm here getting blood drawn. Next thing you know, I have a new laborer in the field. He's been with us 6 years. Now he's a foreman, right? So incentivizing the individual, extremely powerful tool, especially if you have those recruiting cards, right? This was before I had those. Imagine being able to give that recruiting card out with the QR code. It goes to the career video, right? I had to text him right away. One-to-many approach. So we just talked about incentivizing the individual, right? One-on-one incentives, powerful. What if you could talk to one person and get in touch with 10, 100, or even 1,000 potential candidates? We call this the one-to-many approach. This is really powerful for estimators, project managers, entry-level field, project engineers, right? Colleges, trade schools, job fairs, associations. And reaching out to them, specifically trade schools and colleges. Find a program that's relevant. A lot of them have alumni lists, and reach out and say, hey, we're a local company, we're hiring. I noticed you have this program. I didn't know if you could put us in touch with perhaps your alumni list. We've seen this work time and time and time again. It's about building relationships, but what's powerful about this is the depth through which you can get in touch with so many potential candidates. And if you build the right relationship, what happens is the whole purpose of trade schools and colleges in particular is to get their students jobs. And so you'd be amazed at how open they are to receiving your outreach because you make them look better. We've even seen people where they've built relationships and at graduation, they can do presentations about the job roles that they have and they end up on a list, and it's a really, really powerful tool. Now, I wanted to include something that's a little bit more advanced, but it does and can work in certain markets, and that's geofencing. Geofencing is a technology where essentially you can put an invisible fence around a location. So imagine this convention center or a supplier, a manufacturer, a trade school, a university. Imagine being able to program in an invisible fence where a prospective candidate can walk through that, and if they're on their phone searching for anything, what'll happen is your hiring ad can pop up. Now, you need to find a company who knows how to do geofencing specifically when it comes to hiring, but this is a very powerful tool in certain markets, especially if you can find a place where a large number of prospective candidates would go, and you find a company who knows how to run those ads. Now, another one we see come up a lot. Most companies apply to or post a job advertisement on ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and maybe LinkedIn, right? How many of you use ZipRecruiter, one of the three, Zip, Indeed, or LinkedIn? Let's see a show of hands. Yeah. So those are the main three. For most of us, there are 20+ job platforms that are available. And so leveraging all of them, the data is very interesting. As we've done this across the country, we've seen local cities, towns, states, there's no consistency per se with certain job platforms that you can post on. And so we recommend posting to all of them because we found, for example, in certain locations, ZipRecruiter does amazing. Certain locations, Indeed does awesome. Certain locations, it's LinkedIn, right? But because there's such an upside to finding the best candidates, we recommend researching your local area. There's usually 20+ platforms that you can put the same job advertisement on. Copy and paste, right? Another amazing quote here. Hiring people is an art, not a science, and resumes can't tell you whether someone will fit into a company's culture. That's no more true than in our industry. Each year, Starbucks receives over 1 million job applications and hires just 10%. I wanted to include this because if you follow the first 3 steps, the next big problem you're going to have, quality problem, is a flood of candidates, right? Lots of resumes, lots of candidates. So we need to look at how we're going to simplify the process for getting great candidates through the funnel because they're not going to stay on the market long. And one of the first things you can do is speed to lead. We have data on this. We find the magic number, 3 to 10 minutes from when a candidate applies. That's when we get in touch with our candidates. And that's when we've seen the most success is within 3 to 10 minutes, calling, leaving a voicemail, and texting, right? Texting applicants if they don't answer is huge. A lot of candidates might be on lunch, they might be working, right? So calling, leaving a voicemail, and then texting them after, very powerful tool. It opens up that line of communication. The goal is to schedule the first round or the informal interview as fast as humanly possible because that's where you create the connection. We found that if that connection is made and a candidate is then interested, they'll stick through the entire process to understand what the job offer is going to be. They may shop other offers and they may have other offers on the table, but they're going to stick with it. If you don't build that relationship, just like a customer, what they're going to do is they're going to continue to apply to jobs until they have 3, 4, or 5 interviews. Now their calendar's full, right? And then when you call back, if it's a day or 2 later, and they've already got these interviews scheduled, they may say, well, let me see what happens with these first 3 or 5, and then I'll revisit this offer. Zoom video interviews, right? Phone call or Zoom for the first informal interview. The goal and the trick here is to build connection, right? Assuming you've got those great hiring assets, you've leveraged the gap, and you have 3 incentives that are highlighting what your company, why it would be great to work at your company. Leveraging the face-to-face connection is a big one to get a candidate to stick through the entire hiring process, right? I'm willing to bet that you've experienced it where candidates drop off in the hiring process. Maybe you call them, they don't show up for an interview. Maybe they had an interview scheduled, right? And they don't show up. The Zoom video interview, if you've texted the candidate and built that relationship, that face-to-face connection, they're far less likely to not show up to that second round in-person office interview, right? If your candidate lives here and your office is there, what we've seen is some companies, they'll try and get the candidate to drive to their office for the first interview, right? The goal is to build connection first, create a relationship to where they're interested and invested in seeing what that job offer is. You're going to cut your drop off dramatically. Now, how to take the guesswork out of hiring. One of the hardest things in your industry is a candidate will tell you on paper that they can do things, and it's completely different than what they can actually do, right? How many of you have experienced that? Candidate says, oh, I can do this. I've been doing this forever, and this is easy, and it's the plight of the industry. The tricky part here is, so what the natural tendency to do is to then create a process that it creates layers of transparency, right? You want to eliminate waste, and so you might add more steps in the hiring process. we found a way to take the guesswork out of hiring. And the way to do that is to implement a skills assessment. So imagine for a minute that somebody moves to your local area and they're your dream candidate. How long do you think they're going to be on the market? I mean, we know this climate. A week, 2 weeks, maybe 3, right? It's going to be quick. And so what a skills assessment allows you to do is when we break hiring down into 3 categories when we're sifting through candidates. We have A player, right, which is fast, front of the line, get them right to a skills assessment, right? We want data-driven hiring. B is candidates that look good, but we need to verify things. The resume doesn't show everything. Maybe their email with their experience isn't, they don't portray themselves as an A player right off the bat. And then the third is not a good fit, right? And we discard those. The trick here is when you find that A player, if somebody just moved into your local area, if you have a skills assessment, what's nice about this is you can say, let's say, for example, you want somebody who can assemble scaffolding, right? So what you can do is a quick informal interview and then have them show up to your yard, office, warehouse, right? And actually assemble scaffolding. We have clients that'll have a 4-hour paid assessment with a sheet that they sign. So verify your local HR regulations with the payment on this. But the goal is to eliminate uncertainty in the hiring process for 2 reasons. Number one is when you're interviewing candidates, how many times have you sat in an interview, right? Or been interviewed in this case, and you're talking to the candidate and you think, they're good, I like them, but I'm not sure. I'll have Becca interview him, or I'll have Michael do another round interview, because I don't know right now if this is the right candidate, and I don't want to onboard them and bring them into our culture, and then they don't work out, right? And so we add another layer to the hiring process. If we implement a skills assessment, we can have data-driven hiring. And you can do this for any type of role. So skilled trades, you can do it with managers, bookkeepers, C-suite executives. I would highly encourage you to ask yourself for every single role that you're applying for, what is an assessment I can give? And we've seen even it could be a written test, right? You can say, identify all of these, with estimators, for example. We've seen them do sample takeoffs, right? Project managers, it might be an issue with a set of plans, and you say, hey, here's a project that we have. I'll pay you X amount of dollars, and you can do it digitally, send them the set of plans and say, design the assessment, right? Have something like, I'm thinking of one of our clients. They have a set of plans, and they said, go through these plans and create a list of RFIs that you would want if you were the estimator or project manager in this case, right? And so they're able to evaluate that candidate very quickly. Create a never leave culture, step 5. So imagine for a minute we've done the first 4 steps. We've asked ourselves, would you work for you? We now know the local hiring market, right? We understand our hiring competitors and we've leveraged the gaps. We've built great hiring assets, dream hiring assets, to attract dream candidates. We've diversified our approach, right? And we've simplified and embraced technology. We've streamlined the entire hiring process so that great people move to the front of the line, the candidates that need to be qualified can be qualified. Then step 5 is to create a never leave culture. Very simple, secret I've never revealed before. Tall walls, barbed wire, guard tower, they'll never leave. No, that doesn't work. Especially with you guys in scaffolding and access, they'll be right over. A great marriage is when each person thinks they got the better deal, right? Now, some people read this and think I'm saying marry your coworkers. That's not the case. What I love about this quote is it poses a question, which is, how can you create a culture where each employee shows up thinking they got the better deal, right? How lucky am I to work here? And so I think sitting with that question is very powerful, because that's what great culture is about. It's about keeping great people at your company because they want to be there. Now, going back to my original chicken, right? The mighty rubber chicken. So I learned something very interesting about culture. I was struggling, as my family construction company was growing, I wanted to find ways to reward people. We had different management layers, right? We had, at the time, 14 crews and site supers and project managers. And so I sat down with a labor lawyer, and we're going over the compensation structures. And she's like, well, this is discriminatory if you don't do that. And if you give this person this, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is tough. So we came up with a concept. We came up with an idea. And so what we did is we branded company poker chips, okay, with the company logo. And we gave them to our managers, right, and our foremen on job sites. And we gave them a certain number each month. And we said, we want you to hand these out. You get 5. So each person got 5. We want you to hand these out each time somebody does something that stands above and beyond. You get a great review online. Job comes in way under budget, and there's a great crew on that. You land a big project from your estimator, right? Bunch of different things. We want to give these out. And we designed a spinning wheel. And on that wheel, we put a bunch of different prizes, right? It was like a $5 Starbucks gift card, a $25 car wash gift certificate. We had a gift card for new pair of work boots, right? So we built this whole wheel. We had one little one that was $1 an hour raise for a year, but it was like this big. And so the goal was that we would do a monthly team breakfast. The whole company would come there, and we would redeem these. So the person who handed it out would say, hey, I'm recognizing Michelle. She helped this customer. She was all upset. This happened. She'd put it down, and she'd spin the wheel. So we rolled this out for about 3 months. Now, one of the prizes, when we built this out, we built a budget, and because we wanted to understand what this would cost us. And so when we did it, we had one leftover kind of pie wedge. And so we went to the team. We said, hey, we have one extra one. What do you want to put? It can't cost money because we already did the budget. And somebody, as a joke, wrote rubber chicken. So we put rubber chicken down. So fast forward 3 months of doing this. Okay, I'm standing in the back. My whole team, they're doing, redeeming them, spinning. Everyone's having a great time, great breakfast. People who didn't get spins, I'm noticing each month, people who didn't get them, maybe it was the first time that they didn't get it. Next time they do because they're seeing what behaviors we're reinforcing. And I remember it was this god-awful noise, this squeaking, and I'm like, what the heck is that? I was in the office, and I come out, and I had, at the time, we were at 14 crews, and 12 of my foremen all had rubber chickens. They left them in the work trucks. And so they're squeezing this rubber chicken, going, rubber chicken, and my other foreman, who got the spin, is walking up, sets it down, and he's like, rubber chicken, he spins it. And it was at that moment I realized, we had a $150 Airbnb gift card. I had $1 an hour raise for a year. My team was most excited about winning a rubber chicken. And it brought me back to something that I remember as a little kid. I started in the family business when I was 9 years old. My family's been doing masonry and concrete and construction for over 100 years. And I remember that the best memories that I have were the fun times on the job site and the silly things we would do and the camaraderie with the team. And it got me thinking, I was like, gosh, where am I incorporating fun into my company for culture, right? So far too often, we're growing, we're hiring, and it's the P&L, it's management meetings, it's, all these things that we do. And I think I forgot that my team, they're spending more time together than they do with their families. And so this is something that, we've seen companies do across the country now. The rubber chicken might not fit your culture, right? You might have a different culture, and that's totally fine. But I would encourage you to ask yourself, what is the rubber chicken in my company, right? What is the thing where I can bring fun back, where I can reward my team members, and where I can create something that goes above just a job with good pay? And I can tell you, I have thousands of examples, okay, of us reaching out to, we sift over 50,000 resumes a month. And we have an active side of the company where we'll approach people who aren't looking. I can tell you the number one reason people will hang up when we call and see if they're interested in learning about another job is the people they work with and the fun that they're having. The same line every time. Yeah, well, we have an offer and it might, we noticed that, how much do you make? Oh, you make X? Yeah, we have something. I think it'd be about $2 an hour more. Are you interested in taking a phone conversation? Same line every time. It's not just about the pay and then whatever it is for that company. I get to work with amazing people. The company's taken care of me 10 years. When my wife was sick, they took care of me. Or, I get my own company truck, right? I get a gas card, right? There's these things that go so far above and beyond just pay. And so I put this last, but I want to go back to the first point about would you work for you, that exercise, and also understanding your local hiring market. And I really want to highlight the importance of taking somebody from your team that has been there for 5 years or 7 years and figure out what it is that you're doing that's working. Because if you have somebody at your company right now that's been there 5 years or more, something you're doing is working. And the goal is to be able to put that on the front end in your job advertisements, in your hiring assets, and in every hiring conversation you have. Because that's the it factor. And I found that every company has one. Every company has something about them that makes them unique. It could be, it could be something simple as growth. It could be location. It could be, we have one client and it's the fact that they travel a lot. They attract a lot of people who enjoy travel and per diems, right? But I encourage you to find what that rubber chicken is, find a way to reward your team early and often, and it's not all about the money. I have trucks right now. Every single truck in my company, 22 vehicles, has a rubber chicken in it. Nobody knows what that means, but to my team, that means something so much more than the $2 it cost me to pay for that chicken. And this is an example of us rolling that out. Simple wheel, dry erase board, right? Or a dry erase marker on the wheel. You can change the prizes. It's not about money, but ask yourself, how can I reward our team early and often? How can I reinforce the behaviors I want to see, right? And also, how can I bring back fun? Now, another element to great culture is getting honest feedback, right? True, honest feedback. Now, most companies do this one of two ways. They'll sit down one-on-one with their team members and say, hey, I want to do a feedback review. How's things going, right? A little intense, right? You're sitting down. Other times it'll be managers and there's multi-layers. So you're getting feedback from maybe, their direct report. Let's say it's you have a site superintendent and they're getting feedback from their crews. Let's say, for example, or in the office, it could be an office manager getting your feedback, or HR. And you don't always get honest feedback. One of the biggest things we've seen is that most issues in company culture could be resolved if they were identified early and often. And so we developed what's called an honest employee audit. Short survey to understand the current team. So anonymous feedback from each member, simple 1 to 10 answers for averages. So what this is, I'll show you here in a minute, is it's a very simple 18-question assessment. And you can send this out to your team. We recommend you do it quarterly. And I'll be giving you this so you'll have this PDF and you can use it in your company. And it's a 1 to 10 scale. Very simple. And what it's highlighting is it's based around the neuroscience of what makes a happy employee at a company. What are the key areas where people stay? And then what are the areas where if this need isn't met, people will leave? So compensation, feeling valued, feeling part of a team. And so we break these down into a 1 to 10 scale. And what you're able to do is get a true, honest pulse check, not one-to-one, completely anonymous, of where your team is at. Sometimes the truth is, it's good. It shows, we've done this with companies hundreds of times, and it's interesting because some areas will find that they do a lot better than they thought. Some areas they'll find, they might have a 3 or 4 average, and they get worried. But the exciting part is now you know what to work on and what to focus on, and a lot of employees don't feel comfortable telling you in a one-on-one environment, hey, I'd really like to feel a little bit more valued. I gave feedback last week and I don't know, it was kind of dismissed, or, hey, when, so-and-so's tools got stolen, I let them borrow my tool and then they stole it. It's like all that stuff doesn't always come out. And so when you do this anonymously, you're able to pinpoint areas and problems before they happen, because nobody quits the day they quit, right? It's always a few months before that, typically, it starts to break down, right? It's like something will happen, then another thing will happen, and then maybe somebody got a raise and HR didn't process the raise, and now it's a week later, and now they're frustrated. You all know how this goes. So by figuring this out on a quarterly basis and having then targets for your management team, it's a really powerful tool. And this is what it looks like. So one of the sample questions here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel like you are part of a team? 1, no sense of team. 10, extremely team-oriented. The way we recommend implementing this is if you have more than 5 to 7 people in your company, then you break it down by department, right? So you might have an office side that you'll do this. You might do like an estimating department. If you have that, it could be field. But breaking it up so that you can understand the different departments within your company and how everyone's feeling. Here's another one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel that when you go above and beyond, you were recognized and rewarded? 1, not at all. 10, highly rewarded. Now, the nice part about this, they're literally tapping a button 18 times. There's 18 questions. And then you aggregate this, and you get an average. 10 is the best, obviously, and 1 is the worst. And so you'll be able to aggregate all the data because you'll have outliers, right? You'll have, it's always funny, there'll be maybe like one employee that puts 1s for everything, and then they'll call us and say, hey, do you have access to the data? And we say, no, this is really anonymous. But the purpose of getting the averages is so that you can see as a whole. And you get to see if there's a few people that stand out. And it's important it doesn't feel like a test, right? We don't want this to feel like a test, so typically some type of team event works great. or something to that effect where it's not like, hey, I need you to take this 18-question test, because nobody wants to do that, right? Now, I want to recap the 5 steps here. Number 1, start with the candidate perspective, right? Think about it from the perspective of a candidate. Google your company name, understand your hiring competitors, and study the local hiring market, right? Number 2, build dream hiring assets, career page, career video, recruiting cards, and headline testing. Number 3, diversify your approach. There's geofencing if you're feeling really bold, but the simple ones are, the 20+ job platforms, incentivizing your current and past team and your network, and then reaching out to trade schools, universities, colleges, etc. Number 4, simplify and embrace technology. If you do the first 3 steps, the biggest issue you're likely going to have is that now you've doubled, tripled, or quadrupled, right? Going back to that headline test example, 2 or 3x in qualified candidates just with one change. Imagine if you do 3 or 4 of those. Career video, career page, you're incentivizing current team. Your incentives that you're offering are targeted to your local hiring market, right? The simplifying and embracing technology allows you to move them through quickly. And number 5, create that never leave culture. Ask yourself, where's the rubber chicken in my company? How can I reward early and often? And how can I understand the communication and any breakdowns in the company that we need to work on? And I know we covered a lot here. I wanted to give you everything that we do. This is the formula that we use, these steps here, to hire across the country. These work, but I know it can be a little bit overwhelming. We just covered 5 strategies and a bunch of tactics. So I'd encourage you to start with choosing the most impactful step. And there's an easy way to do this. If you just heard everything and you're like, well, I don't know, I don't know my local hiring market, you might want to start there. If, let's say you're getting lots of candidates through, you may want to incorporate a skills assessment. Or you might not, for those of you, I think it was probably 8 or 10 of you who didn't raise your hand with the hiring, you may want to start with an honest employee audit and culture, right? But choose the most impactful step and start there. Any one of these is going to give you a boost in your hiring. If you're feeling really advantageous and you want to go from step 1 all the way through, that's the formula for success. That's what we do across the country. So, and as I mentioned, we're going to have a flyer. I put together a couple things for you all. I know it was an early morning session, a lot of information we just covered. So 2 things to make it really easy. 1 is the honest employee audit. 18 questions, PDF, you'll have that. Feel free to integrate that and use that with your company. I hope it gives you some good insight. Second thing is I put together a brief checklist of the 5 steps so you can go through and tick off those as you go through it. And you'll get a physical paper flyer for that. And then I also did a short video recapping and talking about it as well. So you'll have all 3 of those tools. So I hope this helps in your hiring journey. I thank you all for being here in the early morning here, and I look forward to you bringing in some dream candidates. Thank you.